Music producers, welcome to another episode, another interview episode with another special guest, Eloquent. How you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me. How are you holding up?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. All things considered, that's always my first question to any guest that I have on here. How have you been kind of maintaining this new norm, this new world, this perfect world, I guess, for a producer since we spend most of our time at home? How have you been pretty much navigating this new normal?
Man, it's been honestly, it's been kind of a mixed bag. I mean, the whack parts of it are whack for very obvious reasons. As far as work and just not being able to travel and do so many things that I'd like to do. But as someone as introverted as myself, that's just given me an extra opportunity to just make more music. Certainly at a time where I was really struggling to just find the energy to just create like I wanted to. So
Right.
definitely definitely a whack situation, but life is about overcoming adversity and making taking lemons, making lemonade.
You better believe it. You better believe it. And you're someone who's been a great example of this. I've been hearing the Eloquent name for years. I forget, there was an interview, and it's funny because I revisited recently, but there was an interview that you did, and you were kind of talking about your involvement within like the LAB culture. You were talking about your involvement with using FL Studio at that point in time. I'm sure that a lot of that has shifted over time. It might have been like 2013, 2012 or whatnot. But hold on, let me make sure I acknowledge the chat really quick. You guys can hear us correctly. You got to make sure before we get into this dialogue and we get all into it, that says the screen is blank. Okay, thank you for the heads up, Illicita. So, no worries. We need to get this squared away. Thank you. Let's thank our unofficial sponsor, OBS.
Shout out to OBS.
Shout out to OBS because
That was actually one of those things that through the pandemic I was kind of forced to download it and like figure it out. So I don't know, maybe there's a Twitch stream for Eloquent in the future one day.
Man, we need to have that happen. Okay, are we still black screen, ladies and gentlemen? I know there's a little bit of a delay. Just want to make sure that we good. Audio's clean, good. Okay, we got that. How are we looking visually though? Got to make sure that's on point. Now we good. Okay, cool. So let me acknowledge the chat as we get into this. Code 7, how you doing? Courtney, what's up? Illicita, Brainstorm, One Sided, Boris the Beast, Jay Starks, HGC. Or I'm sorry, HGC is one of my youngest subscribers in here, man. Shout out to him. Bufo on the beat. Who else is in here? Who else is in here? R. Greffin. What's the deal, family? How you doing? Okay. Hig. Okay. Dejan. AT Den. What's up, bro? Isaac. Okay, cool. So we're loud and clear. We're coming in here. All right. Just want to make sure I acknowledge the chat. But yeah, you brought up already some good points. Some of our introverted ways kind of support this, but at the same time, the idea of what it means to be a producer in 2020 has shifted dramatically. And I feel like it's always been that way, but I think it's more widely accepted and understood. What does that all entail for you as a producer, and you said as an artist as well? What does that all entail for you now in 2020? What are some of the demands that are put on an Eloquent?
I mean, I've pretty much just gone through my career, for the most part, just trying to kind of do things on my terms. So, just I guess as far as the quick, eloquent backstory, I think I heard Common like Water for Chocolate, when I was in the 7th or 8th grade, and that joint Nag Champ in particular, that kind of made me, start Google shit, not even Google, Yahoo, like the real folks who,
Hey, that was my
who
homepage for a
around in
long
like
time.
99. like Google was coming up, but it wasn't quite there yet.
Sure, sure.
I started trying to figure out how to make beats, which eventually led me to FL Studio, which was actually just Fruity Loops solely at that point.
Right.
That shit was like version 2.
it,
Um,
it wasn't pretty times during that time. They've come a long way. And shout out to the family and
it,
image line. They've come a long way, right?
yeah, I mean, like, you know, like everyone and their moms like uses FL Studio today, but it like if you were fortunate enough to use like the OG versions, I mean, shit was kind of trash back in the day, but it's really
Right.
it's actually amazing how much it's improved over the
Sure.
course of like 20 years or however long it's been.
Right.
Um, but basically, I started out just trying to cut my teeth the same way as most folks. I was just trying to get placements. That was my only notion or idea of what
Right.
it meant to be a producer. Like, I wanted to be the guy alongside Alchemist and DJ Premier on someone's record. You
Right.
know, what I found out very quickly was that it's kind of a very annoying hustle, or at least it was for me.
Sure.
It quickly divulged into, hey man, I really like your beats. You think you can make me a beat that sounds exactly like this one Pharrell record that I heard, and I only have 1/millionth of the budget,
Right.
so I need you to make this beat that sounds just like uh, the Snoop Beautiful, but
Mm-hmm.
I only got $30 for you. You know.
Yeah, so that wasn't made on a $30 budget, but you expect that of me. That's cool. That's cool. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and and I just figured, okay, well, once I get my name up, that'll definitely change. But
Sure.
then, I started to feel like the Repo Man, trying to just chase people for payment,
Mm-hmm.
and folks used to hit me with some really really creative excuses as far as why they shouldn't pay me. Like, yo man, I know I promised to hit you with the $100 for that beat, but
Mm-hmm.
see what had happened was my child support came up.
They start giving you
You
these
know,
right here. They start, whenever I see these hands come out, I know this is not, I'm not getting paid this week hands. This right here. This, see what happened was, see, bro, no, check me out. So like, man, it's crazy. Like, my baby mom was tripping and, my pet goldfish got ran over by a bus, a semi. It was crazy, bro. Like, this is where all my material comes from. People think like I'm just coming out. No, this is where it comes. It comes from reality. It happens. The reality is the greatest comedy of all time, and that you'll get people who come to you, I'm sure, many a times and give you and say things like, "What you mean? How did you get the gas to get here and tell me that you cannot make your payment? That money
well,
went somewhere. Come on."
but folks have the nerve to, like they'll get into detail about all the things happening in life as far as like I just had to pay my car notes.
Right.
I've little Susie, I had to get her braces.
Oh man, not
Which
Susie.
all things on in a vacuum. I can understand.
Sure.
Life can really get with us. Am I allowed to curse? By the way,
Wait, say it again.
like I'm allowed to curse, right?
Yeah, you good. Oh, no, this is YouTube, but you good. You good. I'm not
Okay,
tripping on that. You're my guest. You're my guest. I want you
it
to
just
feel comfortable.
it's your platform,
No, no,
so
no, no. I
I don't want
appreciate
to.
you asking, but let it off. If YouTube decides that this is not appropriate for those who are under 18 that are listening, you already know what you walked into. You are here. It's a grown man conversation, as it should be, and this is what we had. Grown. Let me just say that grown folks conversation in general. I shouldn't say grown man conversation.
I just don't want. I just want to hear that you got demonetized or nothing like that.
I'm gonna come to you
And
like this. I'm gonna be like, "Hey, Eloquent man, hey, yo, check me out, bro. Like, it was great interviewing you and everything, but YouTube, just kind of took my stuff away. So listen. No, I'm not gonna hit you with that. I promise.
right on, right on.
But yeah,
But I
you
mean,
yeah, Go ahead. I'm sorry.
right, but some of these motherfuckers will like, hit you up about, yeah, I had to get my daughter like braces, and I had to do X, Y, and Z, and I had to, take my mom in to get surgery. All of these things that, just on a human level, like I can understand.
Sure.
But then, 3 days later they're dropping that new song and shit's all like ice, ice, ice.
Right. You just watching them
Like
literally throw your budget in front of
video
your eyes.
throwing,
Like, how you get the money for
throwing
that? Even
dollars
to
in
rent
the
it.
air
Even
and
if you're
shit,
renting it, how you get the money for that? Where'd that come from? Oh
right?
man.
And but I got a big problem with, like you don't get to stiff your producers, you don't get to stiff your photographers,
Yeah.
like your team around you, for money, and then but then your whole, like your whole energy, your whole vibe, your whole persona
Right.
is how you getting money, and you calling other niggas broke.
Yeah.
That's some shit I got a problem with. But
Yeah.
through it all, I tried doing that hustle for a few years. I just really started getting frustrated, trying to track people down for payments, trying
Mm-hmm.
to just trying to get placed, just getting annoyed by people who claim to like my music, always asking me to, make stuff that sounds like other people. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you follow me on Twitter, I've been known to clown, some of the type producers,
Right. Right.
but 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 objectively, it is a skill just to be able to be versatile and be able to flip multiple different styles.
Right.
But for me, music was always, and I don't want to beat anyone over the head with like the cliches, but it really is for me just self-expression.
Sure.
And I always uh, prided myself in just being, just intellectually just honest with what I do. And I'm very unapologetic about my style and the way that I put music together.
Right.
And around the time, MySpace was just starting to explode, and it gave me an opportunity to meet some folks and just come across, a bunch of different artists, many of which were, from Germany and France, and then subsequently Los Angeles,
Yeah.
who had already established like a whole almost counterculture of like, no, like I'm going to make these beats that don't have any singers or rappers on them, which just stand on their own.
Right.
And I'm going to put out albums that you're going to buy just like anyone else. And I'm going to get booked and go on tour and see the world
Right.
playing instrumental music, which I just never thought that could ever be done, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and you just over time you just come across like-minded individuals. I mean, we had spoken sort of pre-interview briefly about DiBiase. So
Shout out
he was definitely
DBS.
one of those guys I look up to heavy. And he was one of those dudes, one of the few folks, with just his reputation and just his appeal and his following and so forth, that you know who never tried to like go Hollywood on me or big time me or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I don't know if I could call it like a mentor sort of relationship because I never really asked him, but it was just dope that him and a few others were just willing to kind of spit game and really kind of encourage you to just do your own thing.
Right.
And even if folks aren't ready for it, we're going to make them ready. And
Sure.
subsequently, in the years that passed, it it really just became like this whole world in and of its own, where you know, like I pay money at the door and I go to concerts not expecting to hear a single lyric, and
Yeah.
that's and that's a powerful thing for sure.
Right. And I gotta ask this question since we brought up DiBiase. My audience is very familiar with DiBiase because I've played some of our old beat battle days that we've had. We've had some doozies, man. We've had some crazy experiences. I mean, he's definitely somebody that's an OG to me. When I first met him, like, it was at Lemert Park. It was at the Beat Cipher. I came in there as a newbie. I was looking around. I'm like, man, there's so many dope producers in here. Everybody was just playing like two beats, I think, was off the flash drive. And this dude walks in and he comes in with like the Prince aura around him. Like people are like, DiBiase's here, DiBiase's here. At that time, I didn't know who he was. But I knew his music. You hear the music first. But throughout the years, what I've realized about individuals like DiBiase is that they don't choose people like yourself and me to give game to unless they feel like you have something. And it's even beyond the music. What do you think was a quality in you that maybe he perhaps saw that allowed for him, and not even just him, but other folks of his stature to want to share game with you? Because there's a lot of producers in here that I'm sure are like, man, that's got to be dope to get that mentorship from somebody like that. How do I get that? What do you think it was about your personality, or maybe your character, or your approach, and even the music too? What do you think it was?
I mean, I'd like to think that a lot of it stemmed from the approach. Um, you know, I would imagine that, you know, he probably has I mean, shit, I see it on Twitter, every day. Like whenever he posts a video, I mean, there's just like dozens and dozens of comments.
Right.
Folks asking him about like, bro, like how did you get that swing on a pocket operator?
Yeah.
How the fuck did you make a beat on an etch and sketch? And and he like he's really like you can tell like he really loves what he does,
Sure.
and he loves experimenting with gear, and I just think that naturally he's just one of those folks who is always willing to give back in a way if if he just sees that that you're really just interested
Right.
and passionate for it. Like for me, it kind of went from various sort of stages of originally I was a stan, and like liking all of the posts and just being extra in the comments, which I don't think he really cared much for.
Right.
But but I think just kind of just asking him just straight up, like, dude, like you're a big influence. I love what you
Right.
do. And at the time, he was one of the first folks that I'd heard who was like flipping video game samples
Man.
and just the whole idea of not quantizing just as a concept. I mean, I know, that's been an ideology long before him, but that was kind of like the first time I'd really sort of heard it as a phrase. Like no quantize was largely from him,
Yeah.
and I think it was just just being told something from a veteran and like applying it to my craft and sort of just improving as a result. And and like I said, he's a no ego guy that I don't know. I think he appreciated the respect and the approach, and then I think subsequently he just liked what I was doing. And but I think what really struck was once I found out that he's a 49er fan, and I'm a Seahawks guy.
Uh oh.
So so
There was
I
another
think
level to connect on.
but I mean,
Yeah.
once the relationship extends beyond just music to just sports or just life, or
Yeah.
he's a guy like we text daily,
Yeah.
and a lot of the times it has nothing to do with music at all,
Yeah. See that
and that's
that
just dope. I think sometimes think sometimes, especially when people hit me up with,
Mm,
for advice or questions or so forth, the conversation is always really just uh, established around your craft, but you can really, really build with people, when you find just common ground on things beyond just music. So
right.
I guess that's kind of one of the things that I tell people, like when you're approaching an artist that you want to work with, don't just don't just like DM them a link to your album and then just expect them to just be wowed by it and be like, yo, let's work, you
Yeah, I
know.
often wonder what the best case scenario of that approach is to people in their minds. Like if they really played in their minds like a movie role, like they're like, I'm gonna send this link, he's gonna open it up, he's gonna be wowed by it, he's gonna show all of his influential friends how amazing this is, and then he's going to call me and fly me out to his studio, and then we're gonna make music together. I'm gonna get signed, and then eventually I'm gonna figure out I don't want to be signed, and I'm gonna like, what do you think is really going, like, what story in your mind do you think is going to occur from it? But it just shows you how many people are focused on just those quick, I just need this so I can say that, Eloquent is in love with my beats, or he loved this beat, so now I'm going to use this as a selling point, or Curtis said this, or DB. I think that, yeah, you bring up an awesome point about that. But so I want to get back more so into that origin story before we transition, because you said the Q word, which is almost triggered me, the quantized word, which that can be a whole dialogue in itself. We're gonna get to that, but I want to make sure that we do have an idea of what transitioned you into the kind of sonics that you create, man. I mean, there's a lot of jazz influence in what you do, and just when you think that it's all just Fender Rhodes and you think it's all this, you go flip it on another direction, and you'll bring just the slappery and a swing in its own way. And I'm listening to this, and I'm not like, I was going through your Spotify, I was going through even the Bandcamp, and I'm like, if I did not see the name here, sometimes I wouldn't know it's done by the same producer. Because like you have a general, like, I think the thing that strings everything together is the fact that it's soulful music, right? No matter what it is, it could be soulful, boom back, it could be soulful, laid back, but it's always soulful. So what was sort of, I guess, the transition to get to that? Did you start off sample based first? And if you did, who were some of your influences as you began to get into this producer journey?
Yeah, I mean, I think like most producers, and like some of them will some of them will tell you that they don't listen to other people and that they're fully original, and that's how you know not to take them seriously.
Right.
But the eloquent sound is really just a fusion of all of like my favorite shit to listen to, so you can listen to pretty much any of my music, and you could probably make a very solid guess as to the 3 or 4 or 5 artists that probably influenced me the most.
Are any of them around me
So
right now? Are any of them around me right now? Do you
yep,
see?
yep,
Okay.
I
Okay.
see. I
Okay.
see something shaped like a circle
Yeah.
behind you.
Maybe you've heard of. I don't know.
100%.
I'm playing. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, and it's funny you mentioned that, because that was kind of one thing that people used to kind of hold against me, and you
Mm,
know, like I like you read the YouTube comments on some of my shit, and it's like, oh, he's obviously just a Dilla clone,
wow.
or he's copying Madlib. That's something that's that I used to hear all the time, which used to really bother me, but
Sure.
honestly, it's like, I'm not going to pretend like they weren't influential, but I mean, there's a little bit of RZA in my sound.
Mm.
Uh, there's definitely some Pete Rock hidden in there,
I'm about to ask you about that. If you're a
and
Pete Rock fan, yeah, that was the one
High
name went in
Tech
there.
and
High tech.
Eric Sermon. Like all those guys. There's just little things that they do, and in the case of like the drum swing, like that late '90s, early 2000s, that Soulquarian Uma era of
Yes,
Dilla,
sir.
like that
Yeah.
that shit just like changed my life, you know.
Yeah.
And and just having some sort of bounce and soul, in your song, it makes all the difference to me.
Right.
It's not kind of the be all end all, and I'm not saying that that if it doesn't swing, that it's trash or anything like that. But for me, that's I I always aim to make stuff that I would want to listen to.
Right.
And the irony is that after I release something, I don't really listen to it much after. But
Well,
but
you
that's
we,
that's the goal.
I was gonna say we as producers have a. I mean, I'm gonna say it in particular. You probably have a unique experience with it in that when you're a part of every single layer of this, when you got to go through the process of mixing it, when you got to go through the process of reviewing it, you've probably absorbed the music in a way that no other human being on earth will be able to absorb your music because they're going to get it as a final product. They're going to listen to it, love it. And then by the fifth listen, notice that you had this one percussion sound that was slightly pushed off the grid that they didn't hear the first 5, 6 times. You knew that was in there because you were like so embedded in the rhythm. So, I mean, that doesn't surprise me that once it's out, you're like, all right, time to move on to the next thing. But it's just interesting to hear you say that,
Well,
though.
and, and it's not even just that, So, like you said, over the course of making it, and especially in the mixing process,
Mm,
I would have listened to the same loop literally thousands of times. And if you're putting it out to be released on like vinyl or physical or whatever,
right,
it's like I might like my Forever is a Pretty Long Time record. I mean, that was an album that I turned in like the prior like October or something
right.
like that. So, so by the time it does like officially come out like 4 months after that,
Mm-hmm.
like I've washed this record to high heavens.
Yeah, yeah.
Like
You in a whole other place now.
I'm
Yeah,
sick of it at this point. Like the record's not even out yet,
yeah.
and I've already sort of second guessed things that I've done. I'm like, man, I
Mm,
really should have adjusted the bass like a tad lower on this one beat, or man, I really should have done a cool dropout at this point on the record.
right.
Like I've already overanalyzed it, but
Is that something you
you
still feel
you
like you
have to
kind of
kind
struggle
of
with?
100%.
Yeah,
Like just as artists, we're all inherently perfectionists, and
sure.
and I said on Twitter, uh, like a week or so ago that you know, like the the stuff that as producers that we obsess over and just go crazy over,
Mm-hmm.
trying to fix and get right. A lot of the times, it's stuff that the average fan won't notice, or if they notice it, it like they don't care.
Yeah,
Um, so
absolutely.
it's just that weird element of, man, like I'm really gonna sit here for the next like for the entire weekend, just
Mm-hmm.
trying to figure out just how to mix down the single snare until it's right.
Right.
And but by the time it's consumed and listened to, like the fans, like they hear it, they may like it or they may not like it, but
Right.
they don't know that I literally spent the entire weekend trying to just tweak this
Just that one
one minor
sound.
thing, and and but at the same time, I don't regret it because I have to live with it. But
Yeah.
every so often, you get that really unexpected comment from someone who's like, "Yo, like I really dug how just how you got that sound out of that snare," and I'm
Mm-hmm.
just
You're
like,
like, yes, that was all.
"Thank you."
Maybe it was all
Uh,
about that moment right there. So my last question about that: how are you able to make peace with it? I mean, you kind of explained it already, but what are you sort of telling yourself to make peace with those moments when like because like even when you sit, I feel like the longer you sit with one individual instrument, the more you start to pick out things about it that you don't like, that you didn't hear before, and you kind of have to like by the process of elimination or the process of priority, you're looking at it and you're like, is this really that big of an issue? I mean, I got the EQing right. Do I really need, at what point do you say, okay, I'm at peace with this and I just have to let it go?
Usually the deadline,
Okay,
but
that helps.
but but yeah, for real, it's like when the label says that we really need the full thing by this day,
Yeah.
you know, the when I'm working on it the night before, or at a certain point, you just have to say to yourself, like, you know what, like this record has been like you've been doing nothing but just fine tuning like super minor shit
Hmm.
for weeks. At some point, and you kind of just come to realize that you know like we're all perfectionists as artists, but we're not actually perfectionists
Right.
because once it comes out, and literally every single record I've ever done, it'll come out, and there's always going to be something that you kind of retroactively notice that you say, oh, man, I should have done this, I should have
Hmm.
done that, and you come to realize that no matter how much time, like I could have spent 5 years working on the last album, but I'll
Right.
still find something that could have been done better. And sometimes it's things that you learn about producing or just your craft that you just didn't know at the time.
Right.
Sometimes it's just whatever circumstances you're going through and living in, sort of sways just how you go about it. But but kind of going to the no quantize thing, that's really just a philosophy at the end of the day, that nothing should be perfect.
Yeah.
Like it's okay to draw outside of the lines sometimes, and life certainly isn't perfect. I mean, this pandemic is very symbolic of it.
Sure.
So human error is a real thing, and and sometimes the little bit of sloppiness or the little things that you miss, sometimes it gives it more character.
Yeah,
So
that's what I say. And that's the thing I don't understand about. Like, I understand if swinging is not your bag. That's not something that you listen to. I get it. Like, I can't. Everybody has a different palate, a different ear.
mhm.
But the thing that I think, and this is this is something that we connected on via Twitter, because I love your Twitter account, bro. Like, you like one of the shining lights I know when I go and see you on my Twitter account. It's either you getting ready to let somebody know about themselves, but not in a way that's like you'll do it in such a masterful way. You'll break somebody down, and like they can't say anything. They just have to kind of like, oh, come on, bro. Like, man, I'm just like saying. But I love the way that you do that. I love the fact that just how articulate you let your thoughts be out there, because you'll post things and I'm like, yeah, why hasn't anybody else said this in quite this way? So I appreciate that. But there was one in particular that we connected on, and I'm gonna protect the names, to protect the what I say, protect the guilty. Someone said something along the lines of, y'all producers need to learn how to quantize your sounds, and he was like really getting on the folks that are swinging things off of the grid, pushing the sounds off of the protection of the grid. And you and you retweeted it with the Michael Jordan looking at the iPad GIF image of him, like, kind of shaking your head. You said a lot of things without saying it. Why do you think, first of all, because we got to get into this quantization conversation about the sounds, because, the way the swing was introduced to me was from the homie Captain, and Captain and I are the ones, like, are you familiar with the homie Captain?
like I've never met him, but
Yeah.
I know who he is. Yeah.
Okay, so DiBiase was the one that set us both up to be in the Red Bull Big Zone, and Captain and I were both from the same area called from the Inland Empire, and so he's the first person that ever told me, like, yo, I can't teach you swing, like, you have to feel it and you have your own swing. And I would listen to his drums, and I'd be like, okay, my drums hit, but they don't sound like that. What is that? What is that? And his snare, we used to joke about it. His kick would be in California, his snare would be in Maine, like the way the swing is. But it just felt like, even though it wasn't perfectly on beat, it was there. It was a pocket that he discovered. I'm always curious, man. Why do you think that there's people who are like anti?
I think that I mean, I think there's multiple reasons. First and foremost, like for me, someone who I guess just grew up listening to everything from Slum and like a Tribe Called Quest
Sure.
and you know and and everything else like it. So it was a sound that I've always been always been familiar with, and it's kind of one of those subtle things that you don't even sort of realize that they're actively doing something differently until
Mm-hmm.
sort of see it sort of unravel. Like I remember many years back, there was a YouTube video of I want to say it was Black Milk. He's just in his basement lab. He's just flipping a sample,
Mm-hmm.
and in particular, you know, like I noticed that he put his snare and his kicks down, but he said something very interesting, like like paraphrasing, but pretty much the swing and the groove, like it all comes from the hats. So
Mm-hmm.
you know, so instead of and using like the velocity and everything,
Yeah.
and I watched it at the time and just had that moment of enlightenment, like that shit finally makes sense, you know, because
Yeah.
I was using Fruity Loop. I mean, I still use Fruity Loops, but I was only using the step sequencer, and so I'm literally just clicking into the boxes,
Yeah.
and it would be literally the exact same drum pattern, but it just didn't have that groove. It just didn't have that bounce,
Sure.
and I just couldn't figure out why. And even when I later figured out about the little like
The shift
the
knob and the
drum
swing
or
knob and
the swing
yeah.
knob, and it's like, okay, like this is closer, but the way that they do it is still a little different. And
Yeah.
later you figure out about quantization and not using it. But to answer your question, I think that there's a lot of folks who, I mean, maybe they didn't listen to much stuff with swing, or maybe their favorite artists just didn't use much of it, and that's
Right.
kind of just framed how they listen to it. But when you listen to not even just swing and hip hop, but jazz especially,
Yeah.
there's a lot of just magic and just the free form nature of it, and and sometimes it just takes the right melody, or sometimes the right MC or singer to
Absolutely.
kind of just bring out uh, kind of just accentuate the swing. Like I always loved the way like Batin would rhyme on some of those old
Mm-hmm.
slum joints.
He found his
'Cause
pockets, bro. Like he would
he
find a pocket and it would
found the
be like
pocket. Yeah.
it was like, yeah, that's how you approach that. And I think even myself as an artist, starting off as an artist first, I enjoyed the challenge of listening to these beats, like listening to early J Dilla stuff, listening to Black Milk, listening to Madlib, listening to Nicolay, and listening to that stuff and being like, yo, how would I rock with this? I know this is a 3/4 swing on this. How would I rock into this? And it's like, and I'm like, okay, I got one. But how do I do it by 10? I can't. That's the whole nother. He would find it and make it sound so cool, which I think was super dope. But
Well,
no, yeah, go ahead. I'm
another
sorry.
thing too. Like, sorry to cut you off.
No, you're good. You're good.
Like when we were talking before about sort of what led me to doing like primarily instrumental music.
Mm-hmm.
Another part of it too is that MCs are asking me to send them beats, and I'd send them, and they'd be like, "Yo, like the shit's dope, I guess, but yo, like I can't rhyme on it.
Right.
Like the snare comes in a little too early, and and it's kind of like just fucking up what I do,
Yeah.
and I just never really fathomed that, yo, like this shit's hard for a lot of
Raps
MCs to
to
sort of
approach it.
find their
Yeah.
pocket on, and And it's like, I don't want to have to like go back and and sort of change the way that I make music to sort of
Right.
fit someone. Like I would rather someone who understands what I do and understands the style. Like I'd rather they reach out to me than me trying to sort of
Readjust to their liking.
exactly.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a selfish thing, but that's just kind of how I feel about my art.
Right. Well, let's park.
Um,
Also, let's park it right there for a second, only because you're saying something I think that is a very important pain point for a lot of folks in my audience. A lot of producers that are coming up that feel like they're at a bit of a crossroads. They feel like they can either become the next Eloquent, or they can be amongst the herds of other producers who are like, I need to sell my beats. I have to, because that's what everybody else says I need to do. I need to do this. Like my beats are too weird. People say they're weird, and I need to get away from that. And then they get into quantizing, and they get into getting the same presets, not presets, but the same plugins everybody else has, and doing things the same exact way. What do you think it was for you? And I mean, you call it selfish. I really don't view it as selfish, because I mean, if that's the case, then I was selfish as hell. But if it is that, what do you think was sort of your influence early that allowed you to have? Because I think that's leadership quality stuff right there, where you're saying, you know what, I know what you guys want, and I know it would be work for me to achieve that, to readjust my sound, but I don't want to readjust my sound. Like, what goes into your mind that allows you to take that? Because at the time that you were doing it, I'm sure it was a bigger risk than what it is today.
well, I think for me, and full disclosure, and again, I'm not trying to act like you know like I'm like I never have to work another day in my life, and
Sure.
life is perfect, and I'm just raking in you know tens of thousands of dollars a month. That's not me. Full disclosure, but at the time, my whole attitude was like, well, look, I've got a 9 to 5. Making music is like for me, it's therapy. This is my diary that I'm writing into. When I make some of these tracks, and at the time, I'm frustrated, and maybe that has more to do with the people that I was trying to work with,
Mm-hmm.
who were fronting on payments and wanted me to change and so forth. So my whole attitude at the time was like, well, you know, like my life is kind of fine as it is, like money wise and so forth. So I'm just gonna make stuff that I like. Like I just discovered this community of other like-minded individuals who are unapologetic with just how weird their shit sounds, or
Mm-hmm.
how I guess against the grain it is. So my whole attitude is like, look, I'm gonna do what I do, and hopefully people like what I do and want to follow and support. But if they don't, cool.
Yeah.
Like music is it's a personal thing for most artists, and like it like I always tell folks, like make it for you first and foremost. Maybe who knows, maybe I'll get to the point where I want to reassess or reevaluate, but it was always for me, and I never expected to get any sort of real notoriety from it, or
Right.
be able to do some of the cool things that I've subsequently done over the last like 10 years. At the time, this was just, I just wanted to make stuff that felt right for me. And if guys like DiBiase, or if guys like Sam I Am, or one of the litany of other artists who I really looked up to and
Right.
respected, if I could get them to at least uh, tell me my shit's dope, or that they appreciate what I'm doing, that was more than all the validation that I needed.
Right. And now look at what this world has presented because of that. And it feels like such a peaceful decision to say, I'm going to do what I'm going to do, and let the chips fall where they fall. And I think a lot of folks, especially the younger producers, I feel like they feel so much pressure to be six-figure entrepreneur, music producer, social influencer, things that like when you talk about MySpace age, that was not the conversation. That was not the dialogue. This is pre, the Gary Vee that we hear today that I feel like kind of like pushes a lot of folks into that direction of like, I gotta be everything, I gotta do everything, I gotta be great at everything. I have to create every single day. But I love the fact that you're able to speak so freely about that because I think there's producers right now who, for lack of a better term, they're selling beats. They're selling beats because they don't know any better. And I'm not trying to discourage anybody from doing that, but I think that a lot of folks are selling beats because they're like, this is the only way. And so I try to bring folks on that can give another perspective that's like, no, 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 no. You focus in on this. You put your all into this. You develop upon it. I mean, even you as a musician yourself, I put up a question. I said, what producers? What kind of music would you make if money wasn't a factor? And you went straight to like, yo, the Fender Rhodes. I'll be using the same synthesizers, the Juno. Like I'm doing what I would do if money was not a factor. And I think that's so important, especially to longevity, to happiness, fulfillment. So I don't know if that's more a question as much as it is just a highlight of what I appreciate about what you do.
Like the one thing that I would say to aspiring or up and coming producers, like I'm very comfortable in the type of music that I make,
Right.
and I'm always gonna kind of just do what feels right. But like if your grind or if what you want to do is just to sell beats, or if you just want to be a type producer, or even if you kind of do the shit that I do, like you can do both. Like
Right.
there's no one singular path to success. I mean, some of my good friends, um, you know, some of us kind of just do the tour grind and the instrumental thing. Some of my homies, their big hustle is like the drum kits and the sound kits and like the music libraries.
Mm-hmm.
Some folks really push for the placements on people's albums. I mean, I got homies who their big bread and butter is also placements, but instead of them being mostly like rappers and singers, they're getting their stuff in video games and movies and TV shows. So,
Right.
in 2020, there's so many different avenues to get put on. I just think that no matter how you go about it, as long as whatever you do, you can look yourself in the mirror and you're happy with it and you can live
Facts.
with what you're doing, then there's no rules to it. So if you're doing beat placements and you're making stuff that you personally hate and you don't want to and you're afraid to even tell people that you made that song, it's I guess you have to sort of ask yourself whether the check you receive is worth that feeling or not. And for some
Mm,
people, it is. For some people,
everything.
money is king, and
Yeah.
and I can't, in good faith, I can't blame anyone for feeling that way. Um, but if like for someone like me, I'm not to say that I'm not money driven, but there's things in this world that mean more to me than paycheck.
What
And
are some of those things, if you don't mind? I mean, it's a very personal question, but if you don't mind disclosing some of those, what are some of those things for somebody who's searching for some perspective outside of music? Because I always say that music is, I mean, we're just making music, not to belittle it, not to make it any less than, because it is an experience, it's an extension of who we are, but the world is so much bigger than our music producer problems. What are some of those things for you?
yeah, I mean, for me, it's like I I want to like do my part to just help make the world a better place. So I get I get just as much personal gratification, for instance, when you know someone hits me up like one of my music homies hits me up to just, you know, talk about life and
Yeah.
how they're really going through it. And, like, you're an older guy, how would you navigate through this?
Hmm.
Or, just helping to uplift people. And, sometimes you can just do that through music, but sometimes it's, just regular conversation and, making people more aware you know, of just life. Like, I literally, before this, uh, like this interview, I was on the phone with a friend of mine, just discussing, like, some, like, a white friend of mine, just discussing some of the stuff in the news,
Sure.
and Black Lives Matter, and everything, and just having, a really open, frank conversation about, why it's a big deal, why, we feel the way that we do, and why justice for Breonna Taylor is a big deal, and so
Sure.
forth. And just sort of ending that conversation, at least feeling like, you know that he learned something new, or that he better understands our perspective.
Yeah.
Like, at the end of the day, stuff like that. I mean, I hope that, you know whenever the day comes that I pass away, that folks will remember me for more than just making a beat.
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And again, I'm not trying to come across as Martin Luther King or nothing like that. But, I think just my mentality now, being 33, going on 34,
Right.
versus, maybe when I was in my 20s, where, you know, the singular focus was just money.
Right.
And again, like I said, it's an important element of life, like,
Hmm.
making your money. But just feeling like I've been put on this earth for more than just making a song, and
Man.
just helping someone smile and just have a better day. Like, that stuff at this point in my life, really has taken greater meaning.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think that needs to be said more. I think that I've been kind of unfortunately I've been part of sort of the culture in the past of marketing tips, and I shouldn't say unfortunately, because there was a benefit to learn. I mean, there's a benefit to everything, learning the marketing, learning the business side of it. But I think I got so wound up in it personally that it compromised what I call my relationship, excuse me, my marriage with music. The moment that I said I want to do this full time, we got into a full blown marriage. We're not dating anymore. You know what I'm saying? When you get money involved, like, and y'all are relying upon each other to, to keep it going, like, you in a marriage. And so I had a dysfunctional marriage for a long time, and I shouldn't. You can't blame any entity without blaming yourself for how you reacted to that entity. Money,
100%.
you know what I'm saying? Like, money was something that I was looking at, like, yeah, I got it, But in essence, I felt like, and this is just me speaking personally. I'm not speaking on anybody in here who's selling you. Do your thing, make your money. And nobody knows your situation. At the end of the day, whoever you lay your head next to at night and you talk your pillow talk to, that's the ones you got to answer to. Ain't nobody in here you got to answer to. You got to take care of your responsibilities for sure. But I got to a place where I felt like, man, have I been like pimping out my music? Like, have I been pimping my music? What is pimping? Pimping is literally using somebody for their best attributes to make you money,
Mhm.
and you being the one that receives everything from it. And I started to think about, damn, but what am I giving music? And why do I feel like music is responsible for my financial problems? So you sharing that was something that I'm in a place now where I'm more driven now, bro, by things like flow state. What does it look like for somebody's flow state? Which leads me to my next question, because I got a handful of ones. I want to talk about Mellow Music Group. I want to talk about a few different things, but flow state, man, flow state, that state of optimal experience. It's something that I'm getting into in terms of a course that I'm going to be releasing soon. And so I've been researching like a madman, bro. Like I've been driven by this like the first time that somebody told me about swing. And I was like, hold on. So wait a minute, wait. If I shift these hi-hats all the way off of here, I can get away with that? And that's still on beat? Wait a minute, I feel it. So that's how I feel about flow state. You're familiar with flow state, obviously, right?
Okay.
Okay, your zone, you know, what runners call their runner's high, what comedians say is the forever box. What does it feel like when you're in your zone? I know you're probably not paying attention to it when you're in it, but if you were looking out, like if you were a fly on the wall and you're looking at yourself, what does that look like for Eloquent in his musical zone? Because bro, you get in your bag. Like there's so many instruments. I'm like, do you what? How many instruments do you play, bro? But like, cause you get in your bag, especially because we want to talk about bedtime stories soon here too. But like, what does that look like for you? What does your flow state, your zone look like?
I mean, I've got I guess I've had somewhat of a complicated just relationship with just like my process and so forth. Um, so like a lot of the songs that you've that people have heard, you know, it might start off as an idea of just a cool sample that I flipped or a melody that I came together, and then over the course of days, I'm just slowly adjusting it. Like I'm not one of those guys, contrary to popular belief. I'm not one of those guys who can sort of sit down and knock out 12 beats in a day.
Yeah, not me.
Like I have my moments where I'm just snapping, but by and large, I usually just kind of focus on one thing at a time. But when I'm in that zone, which I pretty much was, and we'll talk about bedtime stories,
Sure.
but basically I was just in a frame where it's like, I had my computer on FL Studio. I just kept the program running. Just not turning my computer off for like weeks on end, just leaving the program up. So like I would be, I'd spend a couple hours just playing chords, or at least trying to play chords and bass lines and thoughts, and I would like step away from the lab, and I'll watch some of the basketball game or whatever,
Yeah.
and just come back randomly in spurts. I might be, I might go out for a walk or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just a very kind of spontaneous thing. Like I'll leave my computer on, FL Studio still running. Like I'll
Mm.
be in bed, just like just watching a movie or something, and I'll just suddenly get a very spontaneous idea and just run to my computer right away to
Man.
to try to like to try to capture it before I fall asleep and forget about it.
Yeah.
Um, so probably the type of process that really I could only do from my lab. Obviously, if you
Right.
go to a studio session, and you're paying an X amount per hour, you probably can't just like fuck off and then just go back anytime that you want to.
Sure. Sure.
But yeah, it's just like um like I've in like my notes app. I might start working on the song, and just throughout the day, I'll just jot down random ideas that
Mm-hmm.
come to my head that I think might accentuate this beat, or I might think of or I might hear a cool phrase or something that, oh, this sounds like a song title, and yeah, and kind of just let the chips fall where they are.
Yeah.
So it's rare that I just sit down, make a beat for an hour, export it, and call it a day. Like
Yeah.
there's always some new ideas I'm thinking of. I might think that a beat is perfect, and I'm just about ready to run it, and then I'll suddenly get an idea. Well, what if I move this open hat like a split
Smidgen.
second earlier, or smidgen
Just a
earlier,
little bit.
or what if
Nobody else would notice, but I would.
like, are you like, instead of using like this Fender bass sample, like
Right.
what if I use like a blue bass instead, you know?
Mm.
And I just get these sudden ideas, and then I just run back to test it, and sometimes it works out better, sometimes it doesn't, but it's, I guess, when I'm in album mode, um, and I always try to come up with a theme or a story or an idea of like what do I want to say in song form, and I kind of just set up all my equipment, my tables, my MIDI controllers, my mic, and just throughout the day, I'm kind of just adding
Yeah.
tidbits and little things to beats until it's where I want it to be. So
And I was gonna
I
come
guess
lead me
I'm
to.
very
Oh, you good?
unconventional in that regard,
Yeah. But that's
but
good to
yeah,
hear.
I can't,
Uh huh.
like, I
It's that.
can't just
Yeah. It's that
uh
delay, man. It's that
I
delay
never
is
know when to
kicking me.
end,
My bad, bro. It's that delay.
right?
That not with you with the Zoom. It's just every time you stop, I'm like, okay, I think it's
Yeah.
up. No, I'm sorry. Go continue. Finish that thought. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's kind of all I was saying. It's just off the wall, like I get up and leave. Um, like I don't know the word I'm looking for, but another thing I tell producers is to never ever ever make a beat one night and then just like post it or something.
Mm,
I always encourage everyone, save it, put it away, listen to it again in the morning, because
facts.
the number of times I made a beat that I thought was fire, and then I was feeling myself, and I put it up on SoundCloud, and then like I listened to it again the next morning, and like,
I was like, who is
oh,
that? Who is that? Who did that? That's not me. Who came in here and messed my mix up? That's not what it sounded like last night.
bro, I'm out here on like Twitter telling people I got hacked and shit. Like, man, someone stole my account. That wasn't me. It couldn't have
Hey
been.
man, I don't know who did that. I know that kind of got my swing in it, kind of, but it's not me. I promise somebody just stole my drum loops and they burned a bunch. I don't know what happened. Man, I want to be respectful
Well,
of you.
it's a real thing. If you listen to like the same thing looping for hours on end,
Oh, for sure, ear
you'll
fatigue.
convince yourself. Yep.
Yeah, ear fatigue. I have you like it's to me. It's like being. It's like getting. It's like our. It's like getting. How can I put this? It's like an auditory version of being an alcoholic, right? You can be so into the music that you literally get drunk in the process, and what you're in love with is the energy, and the energy will convince you the mix is perfect. The energy will convince you that the arrangement is all together. The energy will make you feel like, because it's loud and you haven't really
Yep.
brought the sounds down, it's just smacking right now. That's just all it is. Then you wake up the next morning with them fresh ears after you've rested your ears and you rested your body, and you're like, yeah, this ain't this. There's no way. For somebody who mixes very loud, I for sure have had those experiences. But I think that's what's interesting about it. That somebody asked about what the flow state is this week. I just say this: stay tuned for the videos coming in this week, because by the end of this week, you'll have a great understanding of what flow state is, especially as we get closer to this course, this beat making and mixing course. But the thing about flow state is that we have the ability to hack into it on a regular basis. It's just all about our ability to quiet that inner critic, that inner doubt within our head. Scientists or neuroscientists call it the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of logical decisions, planning for the future. When we are in our flow state, it temporarily shuts down. That's why we don't think of any voices we're hearing. We don't really pay attention to any suggestions as we're making our beats. We're just making the beats. We're putting stuff together. It's almost like, you guys know I don't play the keys, but every so once in a while when I'm getting there with a sample and I'm running through the scale, you would think that I've had some kind of experience or training. That's all flow state, because I'm moving faster than my doubts. My doubts would say, well, you don't play the piano keys, bro. That's all off key. That key's off key. Don't play anymore. That's what the prefrontal cortex does, and it stops us from getting in our flow state. And a lot of folks end up just closing up their FL Studio or their DAW before they even get a chance to get into it. I want to be respectful of your time. I know we run a little bit later than I told you, but
All good.
man, I had a few more questions, and I think they all kind of tie into one another. And then I had just one random question about cancel culture, since you brought that up a little early in our pre-conversation.
Right
Uh,
up.
so Forbes called. I mean, as a fan, I'm already knowing because of the craziness of the roster. But Forbes called, for those who don't understand, Mellow Music Group one of the most successful indie rap labels of the decade. There are some heavy hitters, legendary heavy hitters. I remember the homie Murs put me on to Mellow Music Group when I was like in between label situations, and he was telling me, "Yo, you need to educate yourself. It looks like it would be a great home if you want me to call, make some phone calls." But that Mellow Music Group, how did you get involved with Mellow Music Group? And what does that look like for someone that is an artist slash producer? Like, what being in a label situation? A lot of folks don't get to experience that. What is that?
Honestly, like I'd be lying to you if I told you that, yeah, man, I put a demo together and I reached out and I followed up and a friend of, like, you often sort of hear some of those convoluted sort of origin stories like that.
Sure.
Honestly, it's I mean, I've been a fan of the label and especially a number of the artists on said label for many years,
Right.
and and the guys who run it, they've known about me, and I guess the 6 degrees of separation, of knowing someone who knows someone, and you're sort of interconnected that way.
Of course.
Um, and so I know Mello has always traditionally been more of a rap label as far as like MCs are concerned.
Mm-hmm.
But I think at the time, you know, I think they kind of wanted to get more into that instrumental bag,
Sure.
or maybe just sort of expand upon it, since they've got guys like Pete Rock and Apollo Brown who just kill shit, you know.
Yeah.
So honestly, it just started off as you know just following each other on Twitter, and just one day they just reached out like, hey, we're big fans of yours. Would you be down to just have a conversation on the phone?
Right.
And at the time, I was just thinking like, oh, okay, well, maybe they want me to produce a song for one of their artists, or
Sure.
maybe, or they do these compilations every year that maybe they wanted to get down with me on. I wasn't really expecting them to sort of want me part of the roster.
Yeah.
But it was surreal, and this was kind of the type of thing that I had dreamed about, just as a kid, like in my
Right.
teenage years, making beats. Where it's like, man, like like producers putting out albums is not really like a thing. You know,
Sure.
it's usually you know JD putting out Welcome to Detroit, and then 5 months later they put out the instrumentals of it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
um, but just knowing that this really reputable, mainstay independent hip hop label just wanted me in the fold at all, like that meant everything to me.
Man.
And they're a great team. It's super easy to work with, and the artists, to my surprise, many of them or most of them actually knew who I was. Um, I guess when they told everyone that they were bringing me in,
Yeah.
which again, the 13 or 15-year-old version of me was just going
I
just
know you had to be
crazy.
going crazy, bro, because that roster is no joke, bro. Like, that's crazy.
Like top to bottom. I mean, even some of the some of the newer artists who they've brought in. I mean,
Yeah.
they clearly do their homework, and they really have just an outstanding roster from top to bottom. And I'm just fortunate. I'm blessed that I get to be part of their history.
Man, well, I mean, and just so folks, if they don't have any kind of reference to it, I mean, you got artists like Ghostface Killer, Open Mike Eagle. Shout out to Open Mike Eagle, that's the homie. Gene Gray, Cool Keith, Pete Rock, Big Pooh, Knots. I mean, that's just some of the names that are sitting up there.
Odyssey,
Man,
shit,
that's just
yeah.
a fraction of the names, and that's already heavy hitters. So, two questions that I have that lead into one another. There was someone who asked me the question about what goes into the creation of an instrumental album, and if you make a difference between an instrumental album and beat tape, but what goes into that, and then from there, talk to us about bedtime stories, and sort of what made you want to name it as such, and what went into that process to bring that to life.
Or well, as far as beat tapes versus albums, and I'm glad you asked because that's one of those subjects that has always been near and dear to me. Now, again, it's depending on who you ask, some folks will tell you that they're basically the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally of the opinion, at least as far as a beat tape, I mean, you're really just putting songs together for however long the run time is, which may or may not have any sort of sonic cohesion between any of them. So for me, at least when I try to do a quote unquote album, like I said, it always starts with a concept, an idea, a story that I want to tell. So in the case of bedtime stories, you know, so that was kind of just right in the middle of the pandemic, or right at the apex of it. So
Man.
this was right at the beginning of when everything was getting shut down, and and everyone, I got sent home from work. Just no one's allowed to do anything.
Right.
Like you can't even sit in restaurants like you can now. And and for a time I was kind of like, oh, cool, more time at home. Let me just run these video games. But
Right.
I think when you're already kind of introverted and you get into your head a lot, and just
Mm-hmm.
having all of that extra time to sit down and think about how fucked up life is and how
Yeah.
everything is, it's it really wasn't a good place for me to be in. But so which led to kind of some depression, insomnia like crazy. Like
Right.
I'm going to sleep at like
Because what is time? What is time anymore? At this point,
exactly
what is
time
time?
time literally just stopped existing as a concept. I mean, like I was starting to go to sleep right when the sun was coming up, and
Yeah.
I'd fall asleep, and I'd wake up later, not having any idea where I was or
Oh
how I got
man.
there, and then
That
I
sound
checked the
like March
clock,
all
and
over again. That sound like March, April, May. Oh,
yep,
we went through it. We went through it. That's the
we
beautiful
did.
thing. We went through it. It was. I battled through some own struggles of my own, but I had what people are experiencing in terms of depression, in terms of like really hitting a low. I hit that in November of the year before. It's almost felt like I was being trained for this period, but we went through it. Like that's the thing about some people who are going through trials or going through any kind of storms. I remember a pastor told, I was sitting in church and he said, never forget when you're going through. He said, never forget when you're going through a storm, you're going through it. Through is a is
Right.
a is an action word. And I was like, you know what, I like that. But yeah, we went through it. So then we on the other, hopefully on the other side of it, coming out. But yeah, so you were dealing with insomnia. You were waking up at crazy hours, not knowing. And this inspires. I'm assuming you kind of guiding us into what inspired this instrumental album.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was just fucking with my sleep.
Yeah.
I was just in just in not I was just never in really like a positive space. And
Mm-hmm.
they say that some of the best art comes from pain, comes from struggle. But honestly, that's never really been me. Like
Mm,
I always try to make music from a positive, um, uh, stemming from positivity that's happening in my life. So this was something completely new for me. Like
right.
I was just waking up like most days, and it's sad to kind of just not have anything to look forward to, like, and it's like I'm sensitive to it because I never want to, you know, I don't want to come across like my problems are worse than some other people who have like real debilitating, like depression.
Right, right.
But it's like, I'm sort of showing all the signs, even though I don't want to like sort of label it as such. But
Sure.
it's starting to feel more and more like, oh shit, like I'm actually depressed. Like there's shit wrong with me. Like I'm getting like emotional, and like I'm deleting social media off my phone because, and again, and
Mm,
it's not even just the pandemic, but it was just like the what felt like the 2 month long just string of, you know, uh, like black folks being killed,
yeah,
and
man.
just all of the, like, you're just getting nothing but bad news.
It's
It's like, okay,
onslaught. Yeah.
like George Floyd gets killed one day, this other person gets killed another.
Yeah.
Now they're saying that COVID cases are spiking at levels. So yeah, that life you want to get back to, that ain't happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
And this
It's
other unrelated thing was happening in my life, and it was just, it was just
bombarding.
stacking and snowballing. and
Yeah.
and so I figured that, well, I'm like, I'm not sleeping properly. Um, so it's like, well, all I have is time, and I don't know when I don't know when this is over. I
Yeah.
don't know when I'll be able to just like go to work again. So it's like, what? Let me just make beats. Like
Yeah.
I don't have any plan. I didn't have any plan to release anything. This is just, let me just make music just to take my mind off of the fact that just everything was just going wrong in life.
Yeah.
And it kind of just, I made one song that ended up being the year one record on it.
Okay.
And I kind of just started thinking like, well, what, like I just put out this Mellow album, and it'll probably be a while before I do like my next like official record, whenever it is, however way that I do it.
Right.
But let me just, let me kind of do the soundtrack of just my life and how I'm feeling. I'm already up late, and this is like, I'm making music. This is stuff I'm doing before I attempt to go to sleep. So fuck it. This is going to be my bedtime story.
Right.
And like I put it together, and originally I was going to put it out for, I think, like Bandcamp Day in like June, or yeah, I think June. And and I kind of just felt, or maybe it was May, but I kind of just felt like, what, everyone is everyone's really focused on like Black Lives Matter. Motherfuckers are posting their black squares up on IG and
Mm-hmm.
stuff like that. And I don't want to I don't want to use a very real movement to kind of capitalize and push my art, because I know that
Yeah.
I can probably, you know like, since everyone focuses, on buy black and so forth, I don't want to use an unrelated experience to sort of prop myself up.
Yeah.
So so I kind of just, it was just sitting in my Dropbox for months. I had no idea what I wanted to do with it. Maybe I'll just sit on it forever, you know and a friend of mine convinced me that, this is this is a time for healing, and
Sure.
like you have people who care about you and look forward to what you do. So
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
just do it.
Yeah.
'Cause, like it's like even listening back to it now, like I do still get like a weird anxiety listening
Hmm.
to it because that space, that headspace that I was in at the time, it was not a place that I want to be.
Yeah.
But if nothing else, and it's kind of one of those things, and we talked about it before, where like people who listen, they don't notice the intricate compression that you're putting on a track and
Right.
all that stuff. And for me, it's like, I told a very personal story on
Yeah.
that, what, nobody's, no one who doesn't know me on a personal level is going to get.
Yeah.
And, like I threw it up on Bandcamp, and originally I had like a 5 paragraph explanation as far as everything that went into it. Like, why did you call that song Atrophy? Why
Right.
are you
Right.
using Kill Bill samples? And why are you doing, and I had kind of explained it all, but then I kind of went back and I was just like, fuck it. And I just deleted it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if if I have to tell you, if I have to explain a joke, there
Yeah.
is no joke, you
Yeah,
know?
somebody, I forget who said this one time. They tweeted it, and I have it in my favorites. But he said that I don't want you to understand me all the way. He said that's part of the journey. He says part of the experience is that when you come to my music, I want you to say, "I think you meant this," and then somebody else says, "No, no, no, I think you meant this." That's part of the experience of being a listener of you. That's part of the experience of like the thing about it is as I listen to this, I'm hearing things that take me down my own memory lane. There's sounds in here that are nostalgic to me that I listen to when I'm like, that reminds me of this. It reminds me of this person, this conversation. And so had I not read the description, I would not know all that went into to the creation of the music. But I think that's so important, man, is that, there are people on the other side. There's a few things that you said I want to definitely highlight on there. Uh, us on the other side, we need that. This is therapy. It was therapy for you at one point in time because it obviously pulled you through. And now you've shared that with the world. Fam, I know why you felt that way. You were exposed to the world. I tell artists and producers all the time, I say, you'd be surprised how great of a conversation we'd have with a stripper.
Right?
Right, because their
Facts.
job is to literally, I mean, and for certain, you can make arguments about what it's for or whatever, but their job is to expose their most personal selves to everybody who comes into that place. Right, they come into that strip club, they expose themselves, they show every little blemish and every little side of them that they are insecure about. Everybody get to see it and put dollars on it. And so it's a lot of similarities in what we do when we put our emotions on Front Street and everybody is able to just like pick at it and just say, oh, I didn't like that. I didn't like that synth. Well, if you knew that synth was therapeutic to the depression that I was going in at that point in time, you'd feel like an asshole right now for even nitpicking at things like that. But I think that it's so important because there is somebody who is walking into the storm that you're walking out of. That's important. Another thing that you said that I appreciate is the fact of how open you are. Shout out to our friend Sarah Too Ill in the building. She was saying mental health is real. We are all going through it. Don't be afraid to talk about it. I appreciate you
Shout
being,
out, shout out to her.
man.
She's hella dope. I
She's one
fuck
of
with
them
her.
people I feel like just like you who are lights in this world that a lot of people need. They need the dialogue. They need the conversation. They need an example of somebody who is going through this same thing, but able to find some kind of positive in it, able to still walk through and make art in their best way possible. Also, something that you said was something I struggled with, which was content creation in a time where the focus is where it needs to be. The focus, needs to be on social justice. It needs to be on Breonna Taylor. It needs to be on George Floyd. It needs to be on these things that are happening. And you kind of feel selfish promoting things or putting things out or, even like when you're inspired by these movements. But I had to have a homie that told me, he said, when you are black, you are the experience. You don't have to
Mhm.
worry about being, insecure about, oh, will somebody think that I'm trying to use this for? It's like, no, no. We are the experience. We are living in this. And so even if we didn't name it, even if you name it bedtime stories or named it Black Lives Matter, it would not matter because it not that it would not matter, but it either way it is what it is. Either way, this is a representation of your experience. At this day and
For
time,
sure.
this is a representation of what you got going on. But I had to have somebody tell that to me because I was like, man, I don't want to talk about this because I feel like it's going to look like I just need content from my platform. But it's like, well, fam, if that's who you are and if it affects you, at the end of the day, this is a representation. But I just want to make sure I highlighted that. I want you to expand upon it, but I wanted to highlight that because I appreciate you being so transparent.
Well, I appreciate the question. It's, it, I guess this is sort of that stage in history where, at least in my lifetime, it's felt like this is the first genuine opportunity for, for shit to change. And,
Yeah.
we'll see over time whether all of these brands and companies who, posted out all of their BLM support,
They on their best behavior right now.
right? We'll see in a year or two if the diversity changes like they've all promised, and whether they're actually listening or
Yeah.
they're actually just, you know kind of just putting on the face to appease and not lose business, and so forth. But yeah, I definitely feel that, like perhaps I guess maybe in retrospect, I probably could have just put it out anyway, and just dealt with any of the trolls who might have accused me of trying to capitalize on
The cancel culture of musketeers that exists out there,
pretty,
because that's the last subject
pretty
we're going to
much.
talk about. You already getting ready to get into it, but we're going to talk about that last before we get to your piece of advice for producers in your social medias, which are for anybody who wants to get into Eloquent's music. I do suggest following him first because respect the brother's mind, respect the fact that he's able to articulate so many of these things that go on through our experience as producers, and he talks producerese like fluently. I found his account not because I was searching out for him, because I have a tab just like everybody else, I'm sure, as a producer has a tab that's for producers, and he would always be sharing something that I was like, that shit resonates with me. That right there. And it will be about anything. It could be about swing. It could be about something that's going on in the world. It could be about a viewpoint of LeBron or whatever's going on. You just always was on point. So follow him there. And then also, too, definitely go to the Bandcamp, which I have that link in the description. I got his website. I got all that information. So definitely check all of that stuff out. But I definitely want to get into this topic of cancel culture because maybe that does ease us into where you're getting ready to take us, because of all the things that I feel like Gen Z brings to the table. I love so many of y'all out there. Gen Zs, I got nothing but love for you because y'all are the reason why these companies are putting out, BLM posts. You're the reason why these companies are searching for their ethics and looking and saying, okay, how do we align with history? Are we on the right side of history? It's because of you, believe it or not, because you're the ones that said, okay, that's cool that y'all got that new product, but who'd you vote for? And who'd you give money to? And do you support this kind of thing that's going on? You guys are the ones that are asking those questions, probably even more aggressively than my generation did. And so, because you ask those questions, people got to be on their best behavior because they don't want to get canceled. But there's two sides to this cancel culture. There's the one side that calls for responsibility, and there's also the other side that has a mentality of discarding people off into the trash and not giving them an opportunity to make a change in what they're doing. That's my viewpoint with cancel culture. I want to hear what you have to say about that because you said it to me. I was surprised. You said you got canceled a few times, from the cancel culture musketeers is what I call them, that are out there looking for stuff to cancel. They didn't cancel Starbucks Christmas cups and all kind of stuff. But what did they cancel you off of, and what is your viewpoint of cancel culture?
It's happened a couple times. I mean, like there's levels of cancellation, I
Mm-hmm.
suppose. So, I mean, a couple examples I can think of. I mean, and again, if anyone who follows me on Twitter knows, I talk my shit sometimes, but I remember one time I tweeted something to the effect of, you know, your original song to remix ratio should be like 10 to 1. So I'm
Mhm.
basically saying, like, like folks need to kind of chill on the remixing a little bit and put out some more original songs. And EDM Twitter came from my head, and I had hella niggas that many of which I'd never heard of,
Yeah.
talking about eloquence. Eloquent is toxic,
Oh,
and
oh, come
yeah, and
on.
that's the buzzword, toxic.
Oh, when you hear that, it's like
And
I got called toxic for my lo-fi views at my first initial lo-fi views. I think might have
we'll get to the lo-fi stuff
look into that
later.
today. We'll go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
Yeah, but one of those things. I send this dumbass tweet that I don't find offensive at all.
Hmm.
I mean, I say that from my perspective, but then I think like I go and run some errands, grocery shopping or something, come back, I check my phone like an hour later, and my shit has like I'm getting a ratio like a motherfucker, and
Speaking of
folks are quote
ratios.
like folks are like quote tweeting me saying that this is a trash take, and
Oh
man, like
man.
some of my favorite artists only exclusively remix, and it's like bro, like I don't know you. I don't care what you do. Like you have the ability to take what's read
Yeah.
and and do whatever you want with it.
Including not do
Um,
anything at all and move on. That's also
exactly.
another option as well.
But it's like, you didn't know that I existed as a person
Hmm.
20 minutes ago. So why would you allow my opinion of someone you don't
Hmm.
know and subsequently don't respect? Like why does my opinion, make you feel some sort of way? But then on that note, I also think of that same guy who said, "Yo, y'all need to quantize your shit,"
Yeah.
because
Because he
I probably did the same thing by quote tweeting,
It's a little
but some
different
folks
though,
can't.
bro. That's a little different though. What you quote tweeted him with was like, it gave him the and I judge this off of his response back to you, because I think he hit you with an emoji like like laughing at the whole thing. Like it's not one that's like. I feel like what you're talking about, the people who are like, you're canceled, this is a toxic, you're toxic, this is a bad take. Those are nines that were waiting to be tens on the anger meter, right? They were just looking for a
Right?
reason, right? They're just walking around being nines. It could be somebody who cuts them off. It could be their girlfriend who burns their breakfast. It could be, you know what I'm saying? Like they're nines already looking to be tens. You just happen to say the right combination of words that morning. You went and got your groceries and came back and you let them be a 10. And they was like, finally I can get this aggression out. I just don't believe people walk around that
Right.
being that angry about somebody's take on remixes. It's hard for me to understand.
Well, see, like I would agree with you, but just over time, I've come to realize that some people have some very very emotional triggers, like things that
Mm,
just
gotta
wouldn't
respect
mean
that.
anything to anyone. Like
Yeah.
another time, I think I tweeted something. I think I quote tweeted a story about one of Azealia Banks's one of her many many beefs, and I think I tweeted something to the effect that she's bugging and she's kind of a clown for doing it, um and she responded to me
Oh,
like from
oh,
a burner account, because I think her original Twitter had gotten banned or something like that.
yikes.
But she replied back, and she said I was ugly as fuck or something like that. Like, which is fine.
Right.
That's she took offense to
Just
what I said.
right.
So I don't knock her for that at all. And in some ways, she probably should have felt that way. But her fans, her stands, the way those motherfuckers came for me, and
Oh.
and this is before Twitter had that mute function.
Yeah.
So like no, you gonna get
You
all
gonna get
these
all this work.
responses.
All this work you finna get. Yeah, you're not about to walk away. You better get off the app because don't think you about to get off any of these tweets.
Bro,
That's crazy.
like these folks were like, like they were like hijacking like my regular tweets, telling me like I'm trash, and like
Oh.
someone said like, man, like I just don't worry about it. Is you like I googled him one time and nothing came up, and I kind of just stopped. Like, okay, like I understand you don't like me, you don't like what I said, and
Yeah.
that's fine, but how you gonna lie like that?
Like, come on.
You know damn well if you Google me, you know hella shit comes up.
Well, my thing
You
is
know,
this. Let's play the game. If you want to play that game, let's do this. I'll Google you, and then you Google me, and we'll see who produces any kind of results for what we do. That's my favorite game.
yeah. Well,
When somebody pulls that, I mean, not to be petty like that, obviously, but I'm saying when somebody pulls that, I just Googled you, couldn't find anything. Okay, well, let's play a game. Google me first, and then I'll Google you, and let's see if these are the parameters that you judge someone's success off of, because I don't. If this is the parameters, well, let's play that game then. And I want to be able to Google your opinionated credentials and where they're
well,
sitting at, because we're not gonna find nothing.
yeah, but but I mean, there's been tons of cases like that. You can't really speak on anyone, certainly anyone with a big fan base, critically. Because there's always going to be the one person who, you know,
Are you saying the burner
emotionally
account sent that to
reacts.
you? The burner account told you they Googled you? Or
No,
you saying
just
just a
like
random fan?
one
Okay.
of her fans.
Yeah, I wasn't talking about
But
for the Zayla. I was talking about for the random fan. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
sometimes shit gets nasty, man. Like, I mean, like me and DiBiase were snapping back and forth, and we were, I think we were making fun of like some Miley Cyrus song or something like that, and
Ooh.
and again, when like her fan base,
That Molly
much like
gang.
the Ariana Grande and the
Mm-hmm.
BTS, like they're very, very proactive.
Mm-hmm.
And this one motherfucker comes out of nowhere, and he's just like slandering us back and forth, and and we're roasting back and forth, and then he said something to the effect of like you look like you belong in Section 8 housing, and I'm
Wow.
like, wow, like
Wow.
that's
Okay.
like that
Well,
like
so
that's how you really feel,
so
huh?
you heard her.
Yeah.
You heard her. When we start pulling out like that, you heard her. I got it. Got it.
Yeah, I mean, all the microaggressions come out,
Yeah.
and then this dude DMs me like an hour later talking about, I didn't mean anything offensive by it. Uh,
You didn't
you
mean
probably
anything offensive.
it was like
Wait.
you probably don't want to hear it, but I have a black boyfriend.
Oh
Just like
no! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do that! Don't do
like
that! Don't do
like
that!
man's went right through the playbook.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
I
here we
can't be
go.
racist.
These are the reasons I can't. Okay, bro.
Right? But
Bro, I had somebody that, and I don't want to cut you off, but I had somebody that could not get my attention, and I'm sure they had tried a few times. I get folks always asking random questions, not even like worried about answering them. This person went to my wife's makeup account
come
and was,
on.
you already know where this is going, right? Went to my
Oh,
wife's makeup account and was like, cause she does when she was like really into makeup, cause now she's doing nails. When she's into makeup, like bro, she was doing like Hollywood type makeup. She was doing like fashion, like she was doing like some of the Rihanna type. Like it was just crazy all the stuff that she was doing stylistically. And he was like, no girl wears their makeup like that. And he had Beats in his name, and I was like, don't even work. She told me about it, and I was like, I started seeing red, and it was like at a different time in my life. I was seeing red. I was like, I got him. I already know what this is. Go to his page, and I just light him up, and then before I could even get into any more, like my private community at the time lit his ass up. Oh, lit his ass up to the point where the tweet got deleted. I think his account got deleted, and then he sends me this long email. And all I see is, like you said, those microaggressions, and this person wants to so badly come away feeling like the powerful one in the conversation. And it was like, no matter what you say, you're dead ass wrong. Like saying things like that, like I mean, in case you were getting the idea that this was racially charged, it wasn't. And I'm like, I didn't even say that. I didn't even say that. The fact that you brought it up lets me know that it is what it is. But to see that kind of energy, man, I look at it, bro, and I see all of the stuff going on right now, and I see a lot of folks, bro, that are just, for whatever reason it may be, they're nines waiting to be tens, their matches waiting to be lit. But yeah, that's
I feel you,
that's
man.
so
And just
crazy.
social media, it's like it's a toxic environment, especially on a number of issues. And I think there's a few different kinds of cancel culture, as we call it.
Mm,
Like there's folks who like legitimately make a mistake or fuck up or something,
yeah,
and the overwhelming response is like it's a weird thing. Like folks will demand an apology from you only
yeah.
to not accept it.
Right.
And it's
That was
and it's like,
insincere. It was insincere. So a PR wrote that. What do you want? Do you want the apology or?
well, yeah, it's a weird thing where it's like, oh, you're not actually sorry, you're just sorry, or you're just apologizing for getting caught.
Yeah, I've
Well,
seen that.
yeah.
That's kind of what makes somebody feels apologetic. The
Well,
embarrassment
of
and that
course.
goes into it.
Like very few people just wake up one day and apologize for something that they don't actually think they did wrong.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
I fuck up, someone checks me on fucking up, and I say, all right, yo, I'm sorry for that.
Hmm.
Oh, he doesn't even really mean it, and now there's a hashtag, eloquent is over party.
Oh
Um,
God, no, not
and
the BTS over. You got you got that energy coming at you.
well, no,
Oh
like
man.
no one's done that to me, well, as
Oh,
far as I'm
you're just
aware.
saying that's the culture of it. Okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just this weird thing where it's like, well, what do you want? What do you, what's the best response
Hmm.
for, or how would you deal with it? Like, what, you want me to just live on an island, isolated from all people?
I think that's what it
You
is.
know?
I think you know what I always say. I say cancel culture is not about changing people. Cancel culture is about cleaning up timelines. That's all that's about. I don't want to see you. You said something that was highly offensive to me, something that I can't believe that you would say or that anyone would say, and I am so offended that I want your existence on this online space to cease to exist. You don't want an apology because then when we get the apology, it's like that wasn't good enough. Then when they make the change and
It,
it's like,
it's
yeah,
it's always moving the
something.
goalposts. It's
Mhm.
like, we catch someone saying or doing something suspect, and it's like, we're gonna dox and go to your employer to get you fired, which
Mhm.
that in and of itself, I don't actually have a problem with it,
Yeah,
depending
yeah.
on what it is. But
Especially,
then
yeah.
it's like okay, you you got him fired. It's been 9 months. Why are you still harassing this person? Like what more beyond the death penalty like do you want for this person?
Exactly. And what
You
space are
know,
you giving them to change? If you want to see change in somebody, that change is not going to come because you hound them. If you hound somebody for change, they're not changing on the grounds of what we really want someone to change. We want somebody to have a change of heart. It ain't gonna be because we just kept embarrassing them and kept harassing them. Like there are people who will say some, for lack of a better term, some bitch ass shit.
mhm.
And you can punch them, you can hit on them, you can fight them. That is not going to remove the bitch assness from them. That is only going to make them say, I must be more careful with my bitch assness because it's going to hinder me physically if I do that. Like, you're not changing anybody. So in that case, you gotta give people, I feel, and this is just my opinion, I feel like you gotta give people the space to first see the error in their ways, and two, to be empathetic, which, I mean, that just takes time. It takes time.
And I agree. And people gotta be careful about some of that shit too, because I think that there's this really weird um, sort of almost revisionist history that sometimes happens where it's like, well, you should have known better in 1997 that saying what you said was wrong. And
Right.
it's like, well, okay, it is true. It was
Yeah,
definitely wrong, but like the world is a very, very different place.
for sure.
And while it's not an excuse, like come on, like let's keep things in perspective. And and a lot of y'all are kind of throwing rocks from a glass house.
Because if we start
You
pulling
know,
into if we start pulling into some of them MySpace pages, folks have only been pulling into comments. We start pulling into some of these MySpace, I want to say MySpace Planet. I'm thinking about Black Planet and MySpace at the same time. We start pulling out into some of these areas where people have not. We gonna see some things. Like I noticed probably some things about me and the younger me. Like if anything, it wouldn't get canceled for it. I said some corny stuff. Like I was just like, I had a vision of what you're supposed to be online when I was younger, and I didn't know no better. And I was like, this is just corny. Like I was every light skinned black male stereotype that you got with the selfies, and I was all that. I had my Obama watch, you know what I'm saying, and I couldn't wait to take a picture. You know what I'm saying, when he got elected, I couldn't wait to take a. I was that. You know what I'm saying, but. I'm sure there were some things that were said because, I don't think any of us saw ourselves as being this close to having access to the entire world. Even at MySpace time, you put up a bulletin, or what was it called? A bulletin at that time.
yep.
Your friends would see it. Your little top, our top eights would see it, but it wasn't something to where I can put out a tweet right now that's going to get to get to some of the higher ups at Amazon, or get to, you know what I mean, Nike, and Nike's going to say, hey, we're inspired by this tweet, and did it positively and negatively. We didn't have that access. At least we didn't think we did. It's different now.
I used to go to and sometimes judge like battle rap events, and and certainly in retrospect now, there's very, very few, sort of events and avenues as toxic as that, as far as, the racism and the ageism.
It was bad.
And the
homophobia,
and that shit was all just entertainment, but it's, and luckily just the battle rap scene, like I don't follow it as closely as I used to, but it's changed a lot over the years, and now there's definitely, I don't hear gay jokes the way that I would hear them in like Scribble Jam 2004.
Not the Eminem era. You're not gonna hear that anymore.
Yeah, and that's for the better. And I'm glad that folks have realized that that shit's not cool. Like, but it would be really weird for someone to kind of like diss you, come back at folks for bullshit that they said in like 2001, where it doesn't feel like it feels like you're, everyone, it feels like people on Twitter are in this perpetual cycle of, gotcha, like trying to catch someone.
Yeah. Nope. Why nobody ever
retweets,
Well, my thing is this: what you just said is so important. Why doesn't anybody ever take the lens and point it at the person who found this evidence? They never talk to like what inspired you to want to look for all the flaws of this human being, as if you yourself are so flawless that you can throw that rock from that glass home. Like, what inspired you to say, I want to go dig into the darkest, nastiest stuff this person's ever said and bring it to light? What's the energy behind that is my question too.
Because I think a lot of the times it's like, okay, Curtis, like you said something that I don't like, or I don't agree with, or I'm low key offended by. So I'm going to spend 10 minutes digging through 10 years worth of tweets to catch you saying something contradictory, and then I'm going to diss you, and then, and basically try to embarrass you. And depending on what it is, we're gonna look up your wife's IG account and
so corny
and somehow like, just goofy shit. But at the same, on that token, it's like, I guess I'm torn, because I do think that for the most part, a lot of it comes from, I guess a good place of trying to hold people accountable and make the world a better place to live in.
Absolutely.
But that same sort of power also leads to just folks just trying to bring folks down um and try to, like, like folks keep coming at, like, every time Kevin Hart gets some new, like, opportunity
They
to
go in.
host the Emmys or something,
Yes.
like those old, like, problematic tweets or whatever that he
Mm-hmm.
made many years ago that he's apologized for
Mm-hmm.
multiple times. Like, they keep coming back up,
Yep.
and the next time he gets another opportunity, it's going to come back again,
Yep.
and it's
Even after
kind
the
of like,
tweets are
well,
deleted, they're screenshotting them.
exactly,
What else
yeah,
do you want to happen at this point, my friend?
yeah. So I mean, I feel weird when I'm looking at these tweets and I see, what you mean, June 13th, 2011, and
Oh
it's
my
like,
gosh.
and that's where it kind of set in that, it's like, you know whatever apology or whatever um advocacy that he does to sort of make up for it, like, it's never going to be enough for some
Mm-hmm.
people. And you kind of just have to realize that, some people just, like, they don't like you for whatever reason.
Sure.
They're never going to like you, and they're always going to, to root for your demise.
Facts.
And
Facts.
sometimes it's warranted, but a lot of the time it isn't.
Yeah.
And I feel for folks who've made mistakes. I mean, I've definitely said and done things I'm not proud of.
Mm-hmm.
I might even say or do something in the future that I later won't be proud of. But
Yeah.
I would like to hope that people, for the most part, because again, there's some trash people who should be thrown away, but for the most part, that folks aren't defined you know
Their
by their
lowest
lowest
moment.
singular moment,
Yeah.
and
That's
and
unfair.
the overwhelming good they otherwise do will matter more. But
Yeah.
that's the power of the internet.
I,
It's, for all the good that it can do, it can really suck for other people.
mm-hmm. I think that's why it was so interesting and heartbreaking also to see, sort of the reactions and how people kind of did Kobe, when he passed away. It was like my man's his body's not even in the ground yet, and
Yep.
already you want to pull these questions out and you want to say these things and oh, he's defined by this, and it's like, but we're gonna negate all the things that he did to bring his knowledge and to bring his help to WNBA. We're gonna negate the fact that the charges upon him were proved to be that they weren't true and whatnot. And so people will, when I saw that happens to even the icons, especially the icons, I can't believe that I or anybody else is above any of that. They're going to do what they're going to do. People who look for that stuff will.
Oh, like,
Um,
I had people,
yeah.
like, I had a couple people who literally unfollowed me because I posted his picture on my IG,
Mm-hmm.
like the day that I found out that he passed. And and like, sort of DM me later, like, well, how can you support him? He's problematic. He's a
Yeah.
rapist. It's yada yada yada. And it's like, well, you know, like obviously, what he's alleged to have done is
Yeah.
not a good look. But how long can like how long are you going to hold that against him? Like, is it going to be 2067, and we sort of
Still have
forget
those.
about all of the amazing things he did on the court, all of the
Right.
advocacy he did for women's basketball and so forth,
Yeah.
after he was done. Like, how long are we going to hold on to people's lowest moments for?
Yeah.
And but at the same time, I also, on a level, kind of get it, as far as why people sort of feel
Absolutely.
the need to bring it up. And it's something that you know is relatable for women, that I can't dismiss their feelings on it. but
For sure.
but
For
it
sure.
just feels very, I don't know if mean spirited is the right word, but
Mm-hmm.
he, like, people crucified him after the situation, like, happened,
Hmm.
and and it took a few years for it to for people to sort of move past it, and
They
that
still haven't.
subject wasn't on
Right.
anyone's mind until after he was no longer here and people were
Right.
feeling their support. So
Yeah. It,
it's complicated.
it
That's probably
is.
the
It
way to
is.
say
And
it.
I don't want to have us having to hover too much over it, especially because we've had more, man, we've had more time than I have anticipated having your time. And you have been blessing us with gems left and right. This is one of those interviews where, I'm glad I didn't come with too many prepared questions because there are some things that you spoke about just at leisure that I think that we pick up the most value in. For those of you that are sitting in here now in the audience or in the live chat, throw in an emoji if you feel like you received some gems today from my man's eloquent man. I genuinely appreciate your time. I appreciate the human being you are, man. The music is amazing. That don't surprise me, especially knowing the folks that have inspired you and knowing, your dedication to the craft and how emotionally invested you are with the craft. But you as a human being, bro, that's really what I wanted to bring you in here to have this dialogue and to have an interview because I respect the man behind everything going on, and everything that you have going on is just icing on the cake. So I really
I
appreciate your
appreciate
time.
you, and thank you for having me. And you know, um, I'm generally, despite what folks see from me on Twitter, like in real life, I kind of keep to myself, and don't really get an opportunity to really kind of be transparent. So, this is definitely like a great platform to kind of just say my piece and
Yeah.
just talk music, life, any of that.
Man, there it is. Well, the last thing I try to ask my guests before they leave and before we end this today is what advice do you have for up and coming producers? But I like to pose it in a different way.
Yep.
If you said you're turning 34 this year, right? Okay. If
Hold
when
my head.
man, I'm 35, bro, and my body is feeling it in this quarantine. Like I got on a scale and I was like, who are you? What is this? What are you doing, man? You killing it on the internet, but what are you doing in the house? So I had to have that. I had to look at myself in the mirror. I had to shake myself up. But what age did you start making music? Just to recall.
Um. Well, I'll put it like this: the
Mm-hmm.
very first time I ever made a beat,
Mm-hmm.
I was 13, going
13.
on 14. I mean, it was a summer between elementary school and high school, so that would have
Okay.
been, we'll say, about 13.
13.
So that was
So
the first time I made a beat, but I'd say when I started getting like serious
yeah,
about
that's what I
trying to make
wanted to ask
music,
about. Hmm.
that was probably closer to '06. So
Okay.
yeah, it's been about a solid 14 years or so.
So what age were you about in '06?
So I would have been, I think,
I'm making you do the math.
18. I
Perfect.
was in the first year of uni. It's funny, like, because at this age, like, I only remember, like, I never remember like my age or things
Yeah.
like that. I only remember, well, this TLC song was popular at the time, so that's how I remember that. You
Is
know,
this between
I
waterfalls
was
or
the first.
scrubs? I can't really understand where we. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you, bro. So this is the why I asked you that question.
Yeah,
If you were able to now, as the producer getting ready to turn 34, to pull your 18-year-old self to the side, and it's funny. I asked this question. A lot of folks are like, my 18-year-old self wouldn't have listened, but if you were listening and you were listening to the game because it came from somebody that is a future version of them who they want to be, what advice would you give to that younger you?
I probably would have just told myself to just go all the way in. Because I mean, a lot of the things that I might have sort of tiptoed around doing, or not fully pursuing, ended up kind of making sense much later on.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have probably told myself then, like, dude, you really like this. really like just doing like this instrumental stuff. Just just do it and go all the way. Like it will pay off. In the end. Which I think would have just served to get me to where I wanted to be,
Yeah.
like earlier. Because like hip hop in general is this very very weird genre where, speaking of old head stuff, it's like once you're past your 20s, it's almost like you don't count anymore or something like that. It's very very weird. Um, but ultimately, I would have probably just told myself to trust the process.
Yeah.
And some of these things that don't make sense, they really do.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing, like if I could tell my 18-year-old self stuff in more of like a forum where I could sit down and talk for like hours,
Right.
probably would have just told him all of the techniques of like FL Studio 6 that I didn't find out until like 8 years later.
Yeah.
Like, bro, if
Yeah.
you do this shit now,
Right.
like,
You're gonna be you'll be a bigger beast than what I am right now. Yeah.
bro, like, no one will fuck with you if you do X, Y, and Z. Like, trust
Yes.
me. Or better yet, and maybe I would have told myself, like, dude, like, you know, if if you're feeling like you gotta like expand or whatever or change
Hmm.
your sound, just know that in 2020, in 2019, 2020, there's gonna be folks like West Side Gun
Hmm.
who's gonna be bringing that sound back that you love so much.
Man,
So don't get discouraged
I
because
love
they
that.
don't see the vision now.
I love that. I love that. And I ask that question all the time because I know there's producers in here right now who they're at an interesting age where it is a bit of a crossroads. I mean, I feel like every age can be a bit of a crossroads if you think about it in terms of where do I go next. But I think that early on, that's when you're absorbing the most information and you're in a place where you're like, I can literally go into this direction or this direction. What's so beautiful about that is that, that's probably very similar to what I would have told myself too, is the fact that look, if you're 18, bro, you could literally mess up the next 3 years doing what you love, and still only be 21. 3 years, you're only 21, and you still can do 3 more years of that if you're messing up. But you're gonna do a lot of things right too at the same time. You have so much more time than you're made to believe. God willing that we have that time, but man, I appreciate you. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Where can people find you? Where would you suggest them to go first to really understand the eloquent experience?
I mean, first and foremost, once again, thank you for having me. It was an
Of
honor and a
course,
pleasure to be out here. I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel and everything that you do, and
appreciate that.
especially those dumbass videos you've been making.
Them skits,
Um, the sliding door and all.
cap,
Yeah.
cap.
But yeah, man, just at ELAQUENT. That's pretty much across the board. So at Eloquent, Twitter, Facebook. Well, I mean, no one really uses Facebook anymore, but if you so choose, Twitter, Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
Instagram, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, um, Spotify, Tinder. I'm joking about that last part.
You just making sure I'm paying attention. I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm listening. He threw that. He said ten. He said
Right,
in the very same tone, tender.
right.
If you
Yeah,
dab, if you
but
dabble, if you dabble,
by and large, I'm pretty easy to find.
fire.
Contrary to that Azealia Banks stan, I am very Googleable.
I don't know that was gonna make an
Yeah,
appearance again. I knew that was gonna make an appearance again. I know somehow, some way that wasn't the end of that dialogue. Man.
but yeah, I'm a pretty easy guy to have, and you know, at least I like to think I'm pretty accessible. So
Absolutely. Well,
critics have spoken. I have a pretty interesting Twitter, or at least I like to believe. As long as you don't cancel me for my lo-fi feelings, we're good.
yeah, we'll say that for another dialogue because we're gonna be here for another hour. We do that. If we do
Yeah,
that, I for sure that could be. But
oh, niggas are especially gonna cancel me after that.
oh
Yeah,
man, and it's funny because I've had all kind of like I've had folks in there in the air in arena, and I think what you said is so important, bro. And I appreciate you acknowledging your own necessity to be more objective, because that has been my biggest struggle over the last 2 years, is trying to get myself to a place of removing my ego from a dialogue and saying, well, why would somebody feel that way? And really asking that not from a place of like, well, why you feel like that, but asking from a place that's like, well, can I see it from another perspective? Can I see how this could be a different experience? Okay, now that I understand that, I can gather my thoughts and I can have a real dialogue with this person that I'm talking to, as long as they're open to doing the same thing.
I
But that,
think part of I
yeah,
think part of just us just being grown men
yeah,
is just just knowing to sort of pick your battles
for
and
sure.
learning to to engage in just dialogue rather than just being instantly confrontational.
Hmm.
Like if you ever just scroll through Twitter and you're following like your favorite sports team and you just read the comments and it's like, how the fuck can you say that LeBron is better than Jordan? You're a
Yeah,
fucking idiot.
yeah.
Don't play in traffic. And bro, like what?
Like nines
Bro, like
ready to be.
I
I'm
just said
telling you,
I
bro.
just said that I like Jordan more. Like
I,
it's not that serious.
Bro, I'm telling you, it's a bunch of nines that can't wait. They looking for any opportunity to be tens. Like they're looking for it. You could be sitting up there making a bowl of cereal, bro. Who puts their cereal in before the milk? What a dumbass! Like they'll make that the dialogue, and then all of a sudden you getting into like, you must be on the left wing. How are we into politics? And all I did was show up and put up some Cheerios and some milk in a bowl, and all of a sudden there's politics in that. But I think that man, you have such a dope way to look at these things, and I think that this is why people appreciate and are loyal to the music that you're doing, loyal to you first and foremost, more than anything else, because you don't hold your tongue, but at the same time you challenge yourself to be objective in situations where it's too easy to just take your own opinion and run with it. So I appreciate you, man. We definitely.
Appreciate
I feel like
you too, man. Thank you.
I'm shooting my number to you. I feel like we definitely gonna have some more dialogue along the way.
Hell
We
yeah,
just
hell
too
yeah.
like-minded, bro. But man,
Hell
thank you. Is there anything that you want to say before we leave up out of here?
yeah. I just want to. I mean, bedtime stories. It's on the Bandcamp if you didn't know. But again, just want to give you a shout out. Thank you for having me.
Of course.
I can't see from my Zoom screen who's on the chat and so forth, but for everybody in there, like much love. Like thanks for pulling up, and yeah, just follow me for more fun hot takes.
Yeah. Hey, I got all the information there sitting in the description, my friends. Producers, go check everything out in there. And just here's my thing to you: when you find some time this weekend, and you're not
Yep.
working on any music, maybe you clean up the house, maybe you just whenever you can let your brain run free, and you don't have to get into producer mode, and you're not like, well, why is it? I just want you to just do what I did with his music. Just go around the house, just have it on a Bluetooth speaker, just let it play in the background, and see if I guess it depends on what your style of music is, and I respect that. But for me, I love music that changes the temperature of the room, whether the AC is on or not. He makes music like that. Sade makes music like that. J Dilla makes music like that. This is the music that I gravitate to. The homie Stolen Drums makes music like that. I genuinely listen. I'm a genuine fan as I'm listening to these records. So producers, you get a chance to do that, just do that, because you'd be surprised how much your producer brain is downloading new grooves, downloading new energies, and
Man,
downloading new perspective, man.
that's something that I guess in retrospect, I kind of wish we would have like discussed or touched more.
Hmm.
Uh, but just as producers, the way that we sort of listen and observe and take in music,
Yeah.
it's just not the same as purely as a fan. Like, I listen to something and I'm dissecting it, but if you can, and you'll certainly take some practice. Try to sort of take yourself as a producer out of it when you're listening to new stuff. It's
Hmm.
a, it's a different type of appreciation for sure.
Well, I think you just set us up for another opportunity to have a dialogue. I need to have you and DiBiase here at the same time. I just cannot
That
imagine the chaos that may ensue in there. It might be.
We'll get another one of these in sometime for sure.
Let's definitely try to plan for that, man, in the future. But brother, appreciate your time. Everybody sitting in here in the chat: Courtney, Only the Funk, Jay Starks, Aaron Barber, Nilak, I believe you pronounce it. R. Greffin, A Magnificent, Meg Game, Big Drake, G Life, Dejan. Yes. I know there's a lot more people in here. Money Madden. I appreciate every single one of you. Lorenzo G, DMZ. Appreciate you as well. I will be seeing y'all soon. I have some more content dropping tomorrow. But like I said, this week, get ready to jump into your flow state because I'm going to have a whole lot of information for you, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you, Eloquent, again for your time. Before you duck out, let me go ahead and just end the stream. And then I definitely want to just say my personal thank yous. All right, chat. Well, I'm going to see you in a second. Y'all have a good one.
Peace.